And joining me now from Capitol Hill is Elana Schor. She is a congressional reporter for Politico. Elana, let's start with the president claiming he can pardon himself. That echoes claims by Rudy Giuliani over the weekend. What would that mean in this investigation?
Well, it would effectively mean that Robert Mueller cannot really come at the president with any significant charges. However, it's under debate whether or not the president can be indicted in the first place. What's clear, though, is that there is a legal precedent that the president cannot pardon himself. In this case, the president is breaking with legal tradition.
Sure. President Nixon's Justice Department, for instance, argued the president cannot pardon himself. So are we in uncharted territory here with President Trump?
Absolutely, but it's fair to say, Tanya, that we've been in uncharted territory pretty much since the beginning of this investigation, when the president has repeatedly been weighing in on Twitter, trying to undercut the progress of the special counsel that's looking into his dealings. So, you know, it's a bit by bit, inch by inch edging away from norms here, and today is just the latest step.
So at the same time, Rudy Giuliani suggested that Trump's lawyers were incorrect when they denied the president was involved in drafting a statement explaining John Jr.'s meeting with Russians at Trump Tower back in 2016. What do you make of that ever-changing narrative?
Well, look, it's impossible to tell exactly what role the president played in crafting this narrative, because he hasn't agreed to answer written questions or sit down for an interview yet. Those negotiations and talks are ongoing, and Giuliani is going on TV as often as possible in an effort to sort of spin the public perception to his client, the president's benefit. But until there's a deal reached here, all we have to go on is statements under oath, and we do know that the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., said that his father was not involved in the response to this in his answers to the Senate Judiciary Committee. So with the president's son on record, it effectively puts a lot of pressure on the president.
Absolutely. Now, as this is all continuing to develop, I also want to play sound from Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy from over the weekend. He could end up being, of course, the next House Speaker, talking about the president pardoning himself. Let's listen.
The president is not saying he's going to pardon himself. I don't know why we're walking through hypotheticals here in this process. The president has never said he'd pardon himself. I don't know where the president would go forward pardoning himself, but I don't think a president should pardon themselves.
Well, now the president has directly tweeted about pardoning himself. So what position does that put Republicans in on Capitol Hill? Is there any appetite to address impeachment, especially with the midterms coming up?
Absolutely not, because Republicans, the president's party, are in control of Congress. And frankly, even Democrats who are looking at a potential House takeover are aware that impeachment doesn't necessarily play well in these swing districts that will determine whether they can hold on to the House. So although it's a fun and interesting political debate to talk about the pardoning power, the fact is that Republicans don't really plan on moving to protect the Mueller investigation anytime soon. So this is really just a political battle in terms of Democrats trying to break through and remind the American public this is not usual.
Certainly, indeed not usual. Now, meanwhile, former President Bill Clinton weighed in on the Russia investigation. Let's play that as well.
If there were a Democratic president and these facts were present, most people I know in Washington believe impeachment hearings would have begun already.
If there were a Democrat in power
yes,
right now.
And most people I know believe that the press would have been that hard or harder. But these are serious issues.
So, Elana, he says if there were a Democrat in the Oval Office, impeachment hearings would have already begun. Is that a fair assessment?
It's certainly a fair statement for Clinton to make, and obviously he speaks from experience, having gone through something quite similar with a Republican-controlled Congress. You know, it's important to note that there was a very narrow violation of false statements that really fueled the entire impeachment push against Clinton. And if you even look at a shred of the allegations and potential collusion evidence that's out there around the president's network, it's fair to say that it's bigger than what Clinton faced.
Right. All right. So on the topic of President Clinton, in a separate interview, Mr. Clinton was asked about the Monica Lewinsky scandal and looking back at that post the Me Too movement. So I want to play first what he had to say about Me Too, then Monica Lewinsky. Let's listen.
It's way overdue. I think that it doesn't mean I agree with everything. I still have some questions about some of the decisions which have been made. Well, I felt terrible then, and I came to grips with it.
Did you ever apologize to her?
No, yes, and nobody believes that I got out of that for free. I left the White House $16 million in debt. But you typically have ignored gaping facts.
So, with the Monica Lewinsky situation and Me Too, Mr. Clinton kind of wants to have his cake and eat it too. But with that said, what role do you think President Clinton will have in the 2018 midterms? I mean, do Democrats really want him campaigning for them?
Probably not, to be frank. And the whole Me Too era is a big reason why not, because it shouldn't be that hard for the former president to say, I feel apologetic and contrite towards Ms. Lewinsky personally.
Right.
Especially since she's been such a vocal advocate.
Absolutely. And extend an apology to her personally.
Certainly, and the fact that he was unable to do that shows how, compared to, say, former President Obama, he's not going to be too much of a sought-after surrogate.
Right. All right. Well, Elana Schor, thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you.